I always would wake up and I would always have a bitter taste in my mouth. So my pharynx, the back part of my throat, would always feel like it was swollen. The inside the back where your tonsils are, the two pharyngeal muscles behind there, would always feel like they were really tight. And I'd be able to stretch the back of my throat and I'd feel them pull as though they were, guitar strings. They were so tight, but it was all the time and there wasn't any reason for it. I couldn't understand what the problem was. I hadn't been abusing myself. I'd been looking after myself. No reason why. That was the worst one. Constantly, to the point where everyone around me was starting to notice that I was just all day long. And anyone that uses their voice for a living knows that if by doing this, essentially you're teaching your voice to constrict. So you're teaching it a really, really bad habit. So it's a really bad thing to do. And all my friends who are singers kept saying to me, you need to stop doing that. I'm like, yeah. all day long. I never had any heartburn symptoms at all. I could never feel any kind of acid. I would only just feel the after effects of it. Yeah. And also, the thing that was the most frustrating for me was I couldn't find a combination of things that could either make it stop or minimize it. For me, I tried everything. I tried cutting out everything from my diet. There was a point where I was eating so little and so controlled, that it's just a really sad thing, when you're living on like steamed vegetables and water because you're trying to do a concert, it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I get like 8 hours sleep and I'm going to eat vegetables and that's it because, I've got to sing tomorrow. And if I wake up and my voice is gone again for no reason, I don't know why, it's going to be a nightmare. And it's obviously as you're performing, and at the time we were performing at the Sydney Opera House. So it was super stressful. It was, because I didn't understand why. I just kept waking up and my voice was gone. And I wasn't pushing too hard and I wasn't abusing it, but it would just be gone. A bit of research. Obviously, the internet's a great kind of resource for starting you off. To try and figure out what the problem was. And a lot of these problems kept pointing to reflux. And I kept saying, like, none of these symptoms match me. I don't have heartburn. I don't have any pain. And then eventually I saw silent reflux. I saw LPR. I was like, right, okay, this looks a bit more familiar. What does this mean? Then I went to speak to my doctor, who instantly put me on PPIs. Now, the PPIs just reacted really badly with my body. They caused all sorts of bloating and belching, and I had loads of gas, and they just didn't seem to be helping. They were making things worse. And then obviously later on, I found that they'd actually caused an issue called SIBO. So, which we're still, dealing with after the surgery. And I went to speak to one of the doctors, and he said, kind of the NHS is the fundoplication. And he said, at your age, for kind of how aggressive the surgery is, I wouldn't really recommend it. And obviously he says, out of the surgeries available, he says it's probably the one that's going to alter your voice the most. He says there's a good chance if we're moving things around down there, it might cause you a lot of problems later. So he initially just straight away put me off. I was supposed to go back for my second appointment, went back for my second appointment and then lost all my information. So they said, you have to have all of the tests again, go get another endoscopy. And they referred me to a different hospital. And went into the second hospital. There was a huge queue. Waited for about 2.5, 3 hours for my endoscopy. Finally got in. The guy literally just like shoved it down my throat. Everything's fine. Go on, get out. He told me the opposite. He basically said, you have no symptoms. There isn't any signs of any problem. You don't have a hernia. And in fairness, he was also like 3 hours behind on his appointments. He was quite stressed, and he did it very, very quickly. He didn't really, I didn't feel like he was paying a huge amount of attention.